Hello, welcome. In today's video, I'll be showing to you a simple way how to draw the chess position as the black side. As you can see, the white pawn is on the a6. This position can occur if the pawn is on a or h file. It doesn't really matter. The important thing in this position is the fact that the pawn is on a6, not a7, because a7 is a very simple draw, and I will present it in the later part of this episode. The main plan for the white side here is to just put the king here, and they can achieve it by going the king to b1, kicking our rook, and just sliding the king forward to a7. If the king lands on a7 and will be unprepared for it, this will be a winning position for the white side. We have to avoid it, but we have to be careful, because if something like king f7, king e1 and king e7, actually here white can play a7, because after king d7, rook h8 is a very easy win, because we are unable to take this pawn, and rook h7 winning on the spot with grabbing a free rook. So that's an important thing you have to keep in mind. So our plan is to just shuffle the king on g7 and h7, king d1, king g7, king d1, king h7, and so on and so forth. White might be happy because they have achieved their first goal, and now they might be thinking, now this will be very simple. I'm just going to put my king here, and I will be winning. In fact, it's not that simple, but we have to remember a couple of very important moves. First, rook a5, very logical, just going as far as we can from the white king. Now king b2. And here, crucial, absolutely the only one move, as you can see, rook b5. Why rook b5? Because after something like rook a4, king b3, rook a1, king b4, white is just able to achieve their goal. And we have no way to stop this pawn from promoting, as you can see. Of course, in this position, if a7 also is winning because of this trick that I have shown you previously. But if they play a7 here, which I have promised you to also talk about, we can just play king g7, and white have no way to make progress, because we will be just keeping and constantly checking the white side, and if they step out from the pawn, we are just going to protect it. So a7 in this position is actually a draw. Either way, we have to play rook b5, checking the white king. If something like king c3, we are going to play rook b6, putting our rook on the 6th rank, and after king c4, as you can see, again after a7, we are just going to play not rook b1, but rook a6, putting the king the rook on the behind the pawn, the white pawn. Rook b1 is a wrong move here, because they have something called the attraction. They attract our king, and they are able to make a queen. So that's an important thing to keep in mind also. So remember, just put a rook behind the pawn if that happens. King c4, rook f6, and we have reached the main Vancura position. This is a theoretical draw for the black side. Rook f6, king b5, and very important, rook f5 check. Rook f5 check, because if something like rook g6, then rook c8, and white is able to hide their king behind the rook and just simply promote the pawn. So rook f5, check, king c6, rook f6. If king b7, we are just going to play rook f7 check. Just keep checking from the back on the f file of the f line. And king b8, rook f6, we can just go simply back, because after something like pawn a7, we're just going to play rook f6. And king c8, and something like this. This is actually a win for the, not win, but actually a draw for the black side, because we have reached just a simple two kings scenario. King b7 is not a very dangerous attempt here, but they can play king c6, rook f6, and they can play king d5. And this is the most popular move in this position. Here we have to remember to put our rook on b6. Just simple rook b6. If we are going to play something like, actually in this position rook b6 is pretty much the only move. We can play rook g6, but as long as we keep our rook on the 6th rank, this should be fine, but the rook b6 is really the most logical square to put our rook. After something like king e5, rook c6, rook a7, we are just going to shuffle the rook back and forth. In the very moment that white king come close to the pawn, we have to check, check, check. And now if king b5, we are going to check again. And if king b7, we are going to reach this very easy draw, as I have mentioned before. If king c5 attacking our rook, this is a one last trick that white can try. If we are going to play rook g6, this is a losing mistake because they can take king b5, and now after rook g5, b6, rook g6, b7, we no longer have a check. And after something like this, white is able to achieve this safe square, and we have absolutely no way to stop this pawn from promoting. So we have to play the very important rook f6, because in this position we are able to check on f7. So as you can see, this position I have mentioned in the beginning is pretty easy. First we have to shuffle the king on h7 and g7, allow white to go and reach their first part of the plan, put the rook on b5, this is very important, then put the rook on 6th rank, shuffle the rook back and forth, and at any time, if white is able to touch the pawn, we have to just keep checking them. If b7, this will be an easy draw. If a7, at any point, we are just going to go back and check here. So as you can see, if something like this, we have to keep checking. And a7, where I have this a7 move that I have talked about, yeah, a7 is also a simple draw because we will be checking the king from behind. And this is a short guide on how to draw the chess position, on how to draw the Vancura position. And if you don't know how to win the Lucena position and how to draw the Philidor position, which are also even more important, you can go and watch my 2 chess videos about those positions. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment and subscribe. See you in the next one. Bye!